Click go
top right. Yeah, top right. The little share button. Oh, all right, we're live. All right, and then you click the little share icon next to the end stream button. That little arrow.
Ooh, where?
The little arrow at the top right.
I should probably take off my screen for now.
Yeah.
Stop screen.
Well, anyways, because we are live, I'll hop I'll hop in here in the captain's chair. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our 28th installment of Nansen Office Hours. Today, Alex is taking the wheel on running the stream. So as you can see, we're having a couple technical difficulties, but we will be up and running shortly. So yeah, if you are new here, this is basically a 1-hour conversation between myself and the token god, and we dive into dashboards, we find some alpha, we share some behind the scenes footage of new dashboards we're working on and new data that we're parsing and finding insights with. I don't even think you've tweeted out the link yet, Alex. So here we are.
I think I tweeted now.
Did you?
Right. Yeah, I'm even retweeting it from my personal account.
Perfect.
We're going to get tons of people, millions of people join the stream. This is very
millions at least.
Yeah. Yeah, so let's see. I think we're good here, right? Yeah, we're live. So
we're live. Yeah.
Do we have people? Can I see that somehow? Pershing Cube. Let's go.
Pershing.
Welcome, Pershing.
The man, the legend.
Yeah, it feels good to be in the captain's seat, even though I have no idea what I'm doing.
Well, you're doing pretty good. If this was like a driving test, I'd be covering my eyes right now. Like, oh my God. Turn right.
Yeah. I mean, at least I have an office. Like, where are you? You're outside, right?
We'll leave it as an exercise for the viewer. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
Let's see what people are saying. Any guesses on where the alpha curator is located?
I'll never tell. The Pershing notes that it is lovely weather. You are absolutely right. It is gorgeous weather here. And it's not in the US. So there's a couple hints. And yeah. All right, well, now that we're ready, maybe we should start having
here. I'm trying to get the screens organized here. I'm like, okay, I got the chat there. I have like you, but with the delay, and some other window, and then I've got you live here. So it's just I'm overwhelmed by all these windows.
I think this is good training session.
Yeah, we got a good guest there with El Salvador. Are you aping into the Bitcoin legal tender there?
That is a very good guess, but not quite. Close. Definitely in the right region of the world.
Close, but no cigar. That's not a hint. It's a trick. It could have been a hint.
Cuba.
To say where you are. Where to ape, sirs? Yeah, getting right down to it. Got to warm up a bit first before we tell you guys where to ape.
That's true. Let's maybe start the screen share though. Again, just if anyone has joined in the last couple of minutes here, this is our weekly office hours where we just dig into dashboards. And if you have any questions throughout the session, feel free to toss it in the chat. If you have any comments, also feel free to put it in the chat, and hopefully we will find some good stuff today. So Alex, whenever you're ready to take it away, we can start screen sharing and dig into Nansen.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to bring up the notes from our excellent analysts here on the side, but for some reason I cannot find them. Although I think I'm getting close. No, I might have to just wing it, and then you might have to help out on the notes in the background.
All right.
Let's see.
The driving test continues then.
It does.
I'll be
multitasking with no air conditioning is not very easy. Okay.
Cool.
So maybe we can just start here. Can you see my screen now? Or do I have to actually do something?
Nope, good to go.
Good to go. Okay, cool. So maybe first thing to note this week is that we actually have cleaned up our navigation somewhat. So now we have these convenient kind of quick access buttons up here, which will take you to the most popular dashboards. And they're conceptually sorted from the sort of discovery part here on the left through the due diligence part here in the middle to the defense part here on the right. So I would say all of these dashboards, or at least the ones that are accessible to your subscription plan. I think hot contracts is only available for VIP a little bit longer. But all of these dashboards you should be using, I would say, and also the smart alerts feature. So that's one thing that makes it a bit cleaner. We also have these nice kind of categories here, which also fit into these conceptual categories of discovery, diligence, and defense. And so typically you just don't know what you're kind of looking for. You just want to jump into Nansen and like check out what's happening. Then these are pretty good places to go. Like hot contracts, you don't need to input any token, any address, nothing. You just go there and see what's happening. Same with smart money. Same with Stablecoin Master, ETH Tracker, DexRaise Live. You can just go in and see people trading on the blockchain real time. Gas Tracker, you can see what's happening in terms of transaction fees being spent, and ETH2 deposit contracts. So these are like really good places if you just want to discover stuff and see what's happening. And then the diligence part is where you are kind of in a specific workflow. So you are maybe looking at a token, you're doing investigations on an address, you're trying to figure out who are the top depositors in a yield farm, etc. Like these are the dashboards that you would use for that kind of analysis and due diligence work. And then the defense part is primarily smart alerts, but we also put the sandwich attack dashboards here as well. And then we have like the projects that we have created bespoke dashboards for, like Aave, Axie Infinity. This one is kind of on hold for now since they migrated to their own blockchain. Delphi by Acropolis, Lido, Polygon, and Wrap Bitcoin. So this is, I think, a much more convenient way to navigate Nansen. We also have this little profile icon here where you have the address book, you have OTC, if that's available in your subscription tier, and then you can sign out. So that's just to explain the new navigation.
Can I dive in with a couple thoughts on this?
Sorry?
Number one, can I dive in with a couple thoughts on this? Number one, I think at a certain point we need some consistency with dashboards that have emojis and ones that don't. Or maybe you can explain why some do and some don't.
Yeah. You should have told the product guys this when they were building it, not where we're live with all our millions of viewers, But
but I think it's I think people want to see that we are self-critical as well, because
that's true.
we are users of our own product. And
that is true. I'm only teasing you.
These are the things I think about. The second thing is, how is there still no My Account page?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to come over here, right?
I hope so. Soon.
Yeah. So for now, you have to kind of scroll down, and there's some information about your subscription plan at the bottom of the homepage, but it's coming.
Okay.
On your first point, the emojis, we might even drop emojis altogether. This is currently being discussed in the product team, but we've sort of inherited them from the way things were made before. And some of these dashboards, we kind of just shipped them pretty fast, and we didn't care that much about like what emojis they should have. So it's been a bit inconsistent. And we might either remove them altogether, or we might just make our own icons that are a bit more kind of descriptive than some of these emojis are. So it is a bit inconsistent at the moment. That's true.
That'd be pretty cool. Well, what if you were to make to brainstorm a custom emoji for Token God mode? What would it be?
Probably just like a pixelated photo of my face.
Yeah, that could work. Like one of those like the CryptoPunk versions of avatars. Like you would have your own face there.
Yeah.
I back it. I'm on board.
Isn't there like I mean the term God mode comes from like Doom, right? The game. Maybe you're too young for Doom.
Definitely too young. I've seen it, but I didn't grow up playing Doom. Got to be honest.
So it could be something around like Doom, or I guess you couldn't have a religious icon here, like a cross, because it's God mode. That might be too spicy for some people.
Well, yes, definitely.
Yeah, but in any case,
of Satoshi or Vitalik.
Yeah, in any case, I feel like the new layout is like conceptually a lot clearer. It's like, first of all, you can still just ape into these dashboards up here, which are basically going to be something like 60% of all Nansen usage, right? Like token God mode alone is like 40% of all Nansen usage. And then hot contract smart money as well is like, these are used a lot, and wallet profiler, of course, but typically it's used when you kind of link between the different dashboards. But yeah, so we're also gonna, this homepage itself looks very vanilla. It's something we made in like 5 minutes when we built the front end back in the day. So the homepage as well is gonna get totally redesigned. It's going to be actually useful and interesting and personalized and stuff like that. But we're taking one step at a time and rolling out things piece by piece. But yeah, where should we start? Should we just jump into hot contracts or smart money, or what do you think?
I think there's been a few dashboards that we've revamped in the past couple weeks, like smart money.
Yeah, smart money has been revamped.
I think one of the biggest improvements in the past little while of these dashboard revamps has been separating out different tables into tabs.
Yeah.
Because historically we've just had like one big long page, and it hasn't been too clear conceptually of like what the different tables are for and how you might use them. And now there's actually, well, first of all, the fact that the things are separated out means we can have longer tables. Yeah. Like here, for example, like we've got a bunch of different, we've got a bunch of rows in this.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think let's poke through smart money here real quick. We haven't done that in a while.
Yeah, so I mean, I kind of like the eyeball stuff here. I think you do as well, right? Now we just went to transactions, and then there's like contract interactions. And so I think you kind of like to look at these approvals, right? Which is, I think, a pretty cool idea. You can see that this USDT Fund Manager just approved the USDC token for something 4 minutes ago. And you could click through on that and see, hey, this is the contract that they approved it for. And yeah, there's some Dutch auction here. That's kind of interesting. Sunder. Yeah, right away you see something like, hey, maybe I want to look at this Dutch auction. What's happening here? So bring up
the Sunder one is definitely interesting, and it's actually Young and Yuffie mentioned that in the notes. Basically, like digging into the Miso launchpad a bit more using Nansen, and I actually didn't expect that we'd be able to find it through smart money, but
yeah, that's pretty cool. Like, it looks like it was planned, but it wasn't. It was literally the first line on contract interactions. We see an approval. Someone is approving their USDC token for something, and we click through on the transaction. We find Dutch auction contract, plug that into Wallet Profiler. Looks like there's not much actual interaction happening yet.
I don't think it's launched yet. So
yeah,
actually maybe it'll go live half an hour before the office hour starts. Okay, so it started 45 minutes ago, I think.
Okay. Well, it looks like if I plug it into Wallet Profiler, I guess we have a label for this coming up. It might be so new that that's why we haven't labeled it yet. But looks like you see the deployment happening, and you see it was created by Bento Box V1.
For some context, Miso is a launchpad built by the SushiSwap team. Tokens can be sold in 3 different ways. There can be a crowd sale, which is first come, first serve, and tokens are sold at a set price. There can be a Dutch auction, which is a set quantity of tokens are to be sold, and the price per token keeps decreasing until all are sold off. So the price just kind of steadily decreases until everything goes. And then a batch sale, which is everyone obtains the token according to their share of contribution to the total pool of funds. Price is variable and increases along with total demand. And so using Nansen, you can analyze these different sales using Wallet Profiler for token. And the token you set is the one used to buy the new token. So for Sunder, I'm actually not sure. I think the website or the
USDC.
Yeah, the website is sunder.finance. I bet they have a link on their site to it.
Whoa, spicy. Launch app. Can I not? I guess I can't, right? No, okay. Well, I don't have a MetaMask actually on this browser. But what I wanted to show is you can actually see right away there's 54 incoming addresses here. You see all the largest transactions happening. There's maybe 2 ways I would, 2 different dashboards I would use here. You could either just use Wallet Profiler for token, or you could use top depositors. So if we go to diligence and here, top depositors, we can then plug in that address. The only annoying thing is I have to go to Etherscan to grab the USDC contract, but we're going to change that so you don't have to do it. We will just let you search for the token. But
in the future, it'll be kind of like a generalized search, right? Like you can either plug in USDC.
It's going to be like Etherscan. Yeah. So if you just write USDC here, you can find the right token, or if you actually paste it in the address, well, okay, actually that doesn't work that well. But yeah, this is how it's going to be. So you can just select the right token in a drop-down. We have kind of an inconsistency in our dashboards. Sometimes it's token address so that you can plug in any address you want, and sometimes it's whitelisted token symbols, but we want to merge these 2 things so it's just one unified drop-down for tokens. So yeah, but so there's 2 ways, right? There's a Wallet Profiler, which lets you see the largest transactions, or actually any transaction. And then there's top depositors, which shows just net terms per address, how much is each address sent in. So if you do multiple transactions, for example, like this guy did 3 transactions, this one did 2, that's been aggregated up to show you just like the total that they've deposited. So this one here, USDT Fund Manager, that's our actually the root of this of how we found this contract in the first place. And they aped in 7 minutes ago with 10,000 USDC. And so we're not actually that far behind them in that sense. You can see the latest ones here by just going to sort this first in. That's like when they first entered the pool. And then you can swap it around and say, like, let me find the ones who were the fastest in here, because they were the ones who basically jumped in before everyone else.
Couple questions from the chat here. Where does something like the USDT Fund Manager label come from? Like, is that something we've manually labeled, or is that pulled from a contract? Or
my guess, we could look at this one. So I could click through on it. Actually, this is not the right button. That's also a bit of an inconsistency. If I just click through on this one, maybe we get some clues from Nansen itself. If I click here, maybe I think it's a fund manager. So I think that means it comes from Enzyme. And so Enzyme is basically what used to be called Melon. And so Enzyme lets you run your own funds. Let's see if I'm right here. Is there a, what was it called? USD1? What was it called?
USDT1, I think.
not here though. Maybe it's not there. Yeah, I'm not actually sure. I mean, we could look through. We have, of course, in our database. I could check like what's the source of that label, but in general terms, there's many different ways that we add labels. It can be through parsing out names from sites like Enzyme, where you have on-chain labels if you know how to get them. Could be ENS names like these guys. It could be information that were given from either the funds themselves or other say like articles that have been written, press releases, where it makes it easy for us to identify which funds are, for example, participating in a round. So there's not really one way to do it. We think of us as like an aggregator of all this information, and the ways we label would include heuristics and algorithmic approaches. We also do a lot of manual investigations. We do some web scraping, for example, through looking at things like GitHub, where you can often find smart contract information. And then we have customers who give us labels and partners. So it's really, I can't answer it on the spot for this one, but those are some of the ways we would get labels.
Okay, follow-up question. What is smart money?
Yeah, we get this question like every call. So smart money is basically addresses that are worth following because they have either had good trading or investment performances in the past. Doesn't necessarily mean they will in the future, but they have in the past. Or they are not addresses that belong to known funds. And those funds are like well known and they have a good track record, and they will get a smart money address because of that. They could also be like yield farmers who have had good performances in the past. It's not just about investing in tokens, but it could also be early farmers and stuff like that, farmers that have generated a lot of yields. So in general, the way I would think about these labels is like, out of the 150 million plus addresses that exist on Ethereum, these addresses are probably the ones you want to look at in terms of what they're doing. If you're trying to like ape into stuff, do investments, and do yield farming, etc. Of course, they could do stuff that they could jump into projects that get rugged, and they could make mistakes and bad decisions as well. But we think of them as like a curated segment that is worth paying attention to on-chain.
And hopefully this Sunder, not financial advice, is a good example of that.
Yeah, I guess we'll find out. Are you aping in here in the background while I'm talking, or?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No. Are you?
Not this.
Do you have multiple screens open?
I have like a separate screen.
Bye.
Yeah.
We're just going to see in the top depositors here, Nansen.eth.
That'd be kind of scary, actually. Like if I saw my own address suddenly, like, hey, what's happening? Also, maybe just to mention, like we've implemented different refresh logic here so that you get cached versions of the dashboards whenever last time it was updated was less than 5 minutes ago. So there's no point like hammering the refresh button always, because you have to wait 5 minutes until it runs again. But so now I refreshed because it was 6 minutes, and then there's already 50,000 more. We went from 206, I think, to 256. And I think you can probably see, this heavy dex trader aped in with 50,000. Who knows? Maybe they're watching the stream.
Yeah, which one of you guys in the chat was that?
No doxing.
Another good comment in the chat here is the Nansen office looks like Amazon's office in 1994. Just saying.
Yeah. Thankfully, I have a bit more hair than Jeff Bezos. But yeah.
Well, on that note, there's another great comment here, which is Alex looks 20 years younger than Charles Hoskinson. But you know Haskell.
But he knows Haskell, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I know other functional programming languages, so.
All right, well, let's keep going on this exploration. So yeah. I think that somewhat wraps up Sunder we could have led with this, but some notes on Sunder, just FYI. Sunder protocol is a protocol similar to other yield strategy protocols, except that when you deposit a token into its strategy vault, you get two tokens, D tokens and E tokens. D tokens allow you to take part in governance processes of the underlying token you had deposited earlier, while E tokens represent the claim on your future yield. Sunder has a mechanism that allows D token holders to participate in governance of the underlying token. There you go. The more you know.
Nice.
Okay. The other.
I actually managed to find the notes now, so I'm happy. Where you're getting all your alpha from. So
yeah,
I'm got that now as well.
Yeah. The other thing we can check out is the sake auction.
Yeah. So okay. Let me just check out the. So is it sakesushi.com?
Sake.sushi.com/purchase. Or this. I don't know. Maybe it auto.
This one, yeah.
Yeah.
That's also a Dutch auction.
So sake is a tokenized form of a real sake bottle, which gets delivered to you in August. Yeah. And basically you buy these sake tokens and you can redeem them. I'm guessing kind of like Unisocks.
Yeah. You see another Dutch auction here.
So I guess the big question is, how can we turn this into alpha? And so in the future, are we able to filter out new contracts that are called Dutch auction so that we can get like a smart alert for them?
Yeah, that's a cool idea actually. You could get alerts whenever an address is deployed that has a specific name, for example. Yeah.
That's so that people can get a notification directly on their phone and see Dutch auction. Ape.
That's a pretty that should be pretty straightforward actually. If John is watching or any of our product guys, please take a note, because that should be pretty easy to add to our smart alerts.
Yeah. That's why they call me the curator of alpha, for ideas like that.
Exactly.
No reaction. All right.
Sorry, I was just making a note here on the side. But look at this. Our friend.
All right. This is on Sake?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the thing. It's not very clearly labeled, but it's a Dutch auction here at least. Our friend here aped in.
Hell yeah. Enjoy.
Probably aped in with his public address where he's like a DAO voter or multi-sig signer or something like that.
I just saw another one that I recognize. Wow, there's a lot of notable names here. If you go back to there's 0x Maki.
Okay. There we go.
0x Jiro.
Oh yeah. I also saw this guy. I actually talked to this guy the other day.
Oncopoly?
I think it was him on Twitter. He posted a funny tweet about like this meme with Leonardo DiCaprio when he's like pointing at the TV, like when you see your address on Nansen. Anyway, so here he is again. Go.eth. Yeah, it's actually a lot of big names in this one. 256 addresses.
There's also the famous dissected Meebit owner I saw on that list. I won't say which one.
Yeah, this is pretty cool actually. It's kind of interesting to see who's aping into this kind of stuff. A lot of NFT folks. The 9th Wi-Fi farmer.
What is zero gas price sender, sir? I have not yet seen this label.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool label, actually. It means that they did a transaction where they paid zero gas. And why is that interesting? Because it means that they are basically engaging in like flashbots type activity, where they're basically bribing miners, right?
couldn't they also be using like Archer Swap or something like that, or
Could be, yeah,
or Cow Swap or something? But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Interesting. Yeah, they could be using other stuff as well.
Cool.
Yeah, they've been doing some
All right.
Polygon stuff. Yeah, so these labels, keep in mind, like we try to surface the most informative labels in these tables, but you can always look at them, in the wallet profiler, and you can see what other labels they have. So here's like NFT collector, medium dex trader, MetaMask swap user. Like these are not that useful. Zero gas price sender is a bit more interesting, gives a little bit more information. But when you see it in a table, it just like makes them stand out a bit more.
I wonder if over time we can come up with almost like a color gradient for value of a label, so that as when you pull up that like little menu or like the little modal with all the different labels in them, we can see them kind of sorted in terms of rarity or whatever kind of value score we're giving them, so that people can understand it a bit better.
Yeah, that's a good idea. They are actually sorted based on how informative they are.
Okay, then the second idea there is, I see that sandwich attack victim is a different color.
Yeah.
In the past, we've talked about like anti-labels. So there's like kind of virtuous labels, which is labels that are relevant. Labels that are relevant to like traders because it gives them signal. But then there's anti-labels, which are like people who are sandwich attackers or something like that, or like basically doing things that you don't want to do. And so we could label them in like green or red, simply put. Or there could be some other way of showing like the labels that are worth tracking or relevant to you as a trader versus ones that aren't.
Yeah. Yeah, it will always be somewhat subjective what's relevant, right? Because some stuff is like it's relevant to understand the identity of someone, and other stuff is like relevant in the context of whatever you're looking at. So
would it be possible in the future to do like a manual override of prioritization of labels? So for example, like
we can't do that. I mean, you mean like the user can do it, or we can do it?
Yeah, the user can do it. So like a user can rank their own labels. Let's say they care most about Flash boys because they're using Flash loans for trading or for like arbitrage or liquidations, and they want to see other Flash traders.
Maybe, as like my product philosophy there is that it's always better to try to find the optimal way to do it, and then if you can't, then give the option to the user. I imagine that there is a solution to this which is going to be good enough for like 99% of all users, and then maybe you want to give that option to the remaining 1%. But I think it's just a matter of like fine-tuning the stuff that we already have, and like maybe improving the user interface, as you were saying. Like maybe there are kind of like visual ways we can highlight the more informative stuff. Or maybe this is like a word cloud, right? And then the size of the label is like how informative it is, for example.
That's also an interesting way. In the chat, Pershing rightly points out that cold feet is another anti-label.
Yeah. So the cold feet.
Yeah, go ahead.
The cold feet label is basically that you used to own socks, and now you don't.
For additional context, socks are the Unisocks NFT, or I guess it's an NFT, but you own a socks token, and you can redeem it for a physical pair of socks.
Yeah. So it's not actually an NFT as such. It is fungible, but yeah. Do you have cold feet?
I don't have any feet. I've never had socks.
I bought socks at $20.
And then
I sold them at $60.
Oh no.
It's actually like the biggest missed opportunity. The biggest, yeah.
Yeah, you're cold. Your feet are frigid right now.
In my crypto career.
Is this why you're doing your Wim Hof stuff? Because you want to get used to the cold?
That's a good joke. Yeah, not really. But I do sometimes send people for people who are not in crypto. I sometimes send them like a screenshot of the stock's price, and I'm like, I bought this at $20, and then I sold it at 60, and then it was like, now it's what is it now? I mean, it used to be like 80,000 or something. Right? Is it more now, or I have no idea. 45,000. Okay, I remember it was at. I think it was at 80,000. Oh shit! It was at
Wow.
161,000.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I bought it at 20. I think it was like among the first 50 or 100 to buy it.
That's pretty cool. When was that?
I don't know, 2018 maybe, or 19. I'm not sure. Maybe 2019.
OG shit.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep moving along here. We're getting caught in the weeds.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the smart money stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Zooming back out, we went down this rabbit hole because we started at the smart money dashboard and we found this Dutch auction for Sunder, the Sunder token sale, which is going on right now. And then we explored some other auctions like the Sake auction.
Mm-hmm.
And long story short is you can use Nansen to analyze these kinds of auctions. And we are going to be figuring out other ways of highlighting these auctions potentially so that you can get a notification or something to that effect when one of them launches so you're aware.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there was one other point that was brought up by our excellent analysts, and that is like the macro view on the, how are the markets doing overall. And so looking at ETH tracker can be quite useful because you can look at exchange flow. And perhaps
this is unrelated to everything we've talked about ish. Like, we're transitioning.
Yeah, this is so we were looking at what to ape into and stuff like that. But you can also get a sense of like the macro sentiment and what's happening, the big picture of the crypto markets by looking at ETH tracker, because that shows some of the stuff that's happening with Ethereum or Ether. For example, exchange flow. And so we've talked about this before, but if you go back to 19th of May, this peak basically, you could argue, predicted the insane crash we had mid-May. It was like the biggest inflow of Ether in a long time, at least 6 months, maybe even more. And the price tanked afterwards.
But is it predictive? Can we say that? I mean, or like, was it happening at the same time?
It wasn't happening at the same time.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
So there was just this big spike and then the markets nuked?
Yeah, but it wasn't, keep in mind, this like, it's in a day, right? So it's not necessarily one transaction. It happened over the whole day. But the thing is, it kept nuking, right? Like the 23rd here, this one coincides, I think, with the drop. I think that was the Sunday. And that was like the second biggest peak up. And so like probably a lot of the money that went into exchanges like hadn't been sold yet. So it was just being sold like that over the course of those days. That's what I would imagine. Of course, like you would have to study it more closely and, study the exact time intervals and so on. But it is true that this spike in inflow of ETH to exchanges happened before prices tanked. Does that mean that next time you see a spike, price is going to tank as much? Like that, we don't know. But it is a fact that it happened before. And so it seems likely that, the mechanics of dumping Ether, you have to send it to exchanges, right? So it kind of makes sense.
So is there, now we see a consecutive like 7 days or something like that of outflows. Is there any kind of tea leaf reading that you can do on this? Like, is it conclusive in any way, or is it more like you bake these kind of stats into your mental model and say, we've had consecutive days of outflows from exchanges, that means there's a higher probability that we've bottomed out or something? Like, how would you think through something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge fan of drawing conclusions on like outflow actually from exchanges. I think that's kind of misleading because there are many different reasons people might withdraw Ether from exchanges. The sort of mechanics are not as clear to me. What you could say is that as you withdraw Ether from exchanges, that means that there's going to be less Ether available for purchase on the exchange, and because of that, price will go up. But it's not like that spike type of movement, right? And you don't know how long the people that are withdrawing the Ether have taken those Ether out from the order books anyway, right? That could be in theory, it could be like a week between that, or a day, or a month, like you don't know. But the flip side, the inflow has to happen if you're going to sell Ether, right? So when you see large net inflow to exchanges, I mean, that just intuitively, it makes sense that prices are likely to go down, because if you're going to sell and you don't have your Ether on the exchanges, you do have to send the Ether to the exchanges, right? So I don't really typically draw conclusions. I think it's a good thing to look sort of the long lines and see, hey, and in fact, like one thing we were missing here, which we should have, is like, what's the actual balance of Ether on exchanges over time? Like basically this number here, 25 million, we should have that as a time series that is overlaid here. Because then you can see the trend that, hey, it looks like Ether is generally being accumulated, which is good for the price. So I would think of outflows as like something to keep track of over time. And it is definitely interesting to look at, and maybe it could be used to draw some general conclusions. And then the inflow is more like that can be useful right away, because if you see a huge amount of Ether flowing into exchanges, there's a good chance they're going to dump it. And so that's like the general point, but I think you were asking specifically in this case. I mean, it is true, like if I'm looking at this, I would say it doesn't look super likely that there's going to be a massive ETH price dump right now, right? But does it mean that it's going to pump? I would definitely not draw that conclusion just on this data alone.
Got it. Cool. I hadn't thought of it that way, of like, yeah, you can use the exchange inflows, like that has signal, but outflows are more
long term.
Outflows aren't usable necessarily by themselves.
Exactly.
It should just be baked into your sort of model across multiple different factors.
Yeah, I think it's important to think through the very simple mechanics of this stuff. Like if a large fund was buying Ether, like what would it look like on chain? Well, you would, first of all, there's a good chance they would do like a wire transfer to the bank, to the exchange, if you're Coinbase, or some kind of OTC deal or something like that. You might not even see any trace of it on chain before the purchase happens. Of course, you could see it if it's stable coins rushing in. So that's like maybe the other thing to look at, and I'm just going to bring that up on the side here, because that's kind of the flip picture. If you see a lot of stable coins coming in, like why is that happening? Probably it's because they're going to buy some stuff. So like I would maybe think of those two things as somewhat linked to each other. But you have to think through the mechanics, like what would that look like, if that happened. But there's different ways it could happen. There's bank transfers, the stablecoin deposits, and then once you've bought first of all, the withdrawal will necessarily then happen after they bought it. So like the outgoing part is going to be after the fact. That's why I think it makes sense to look at it as a trend. It's bullish that people keep buying and withdrawing, but it's always going to be after the fact. The incoming flow is going to be before it actually happens, right? So the Ether is deposited on the exchange, and then you can sell it. You can't even sell it, just the mechanics of it. You can't sell it before it's been deposited to the exchange. So the whole like mechanics are inherently different in the incoming and outgoing use cases, and that's why I think the incoming one is more interesting to look at. So sorry, just gonna say, if we just continue with that narrative and you look at the Stablecoin Master view, like this looks pretty good. Like there's a lot of stable coins that have been flowing into exchanges. In fact, the 31st of May, which was after this pump, $2.1 billion went in, and it's generally been an inflow. But there was actually an outflow going on like right after that crash, you know, so maybe people were redeeming stuff because they've been wrecked and so on. But generally here, this is pretty good. And here I don't know if you noticed, but like we've colored it the other way around. So here, like red is down because you could think of withdrawing stablecoins as not being good for the crypto prices. But if you deposit stablecoins, that's good for the crypto prices. And here it's the opposite, right? So depositing Ether is not good for the Ether price.
Is purple neutral? Is that why?
I mean, honestly, it should be green. I'm not sure why it's purple.
Okay, a couple thoughts here. Number one, on this stablecoin net exchange flow,
yeah,
I feel like in the future we should start thinking through what is the next step after it flows out. So, if people are withdrawing a bunch of stable coins, are they depositing it into farms, or are they like what are they doing with those stable coins? Because I would say the majority of savvy DeFi participants who are participating in this like stable coin outflow, I guess it's not everyone, but like a lot of them would be monetizing their stable coin somehow, whether it's putting it in Curve or putting it in some other stable coin yield farm. So that's one thought. The second thing is, do you think there's any, so when we were looking at the ETH tracker here and we're seeing inflows and outflows and we're trying to draw some conclusions from that, do you think that prior to a dump, you would also see large imbalances in Uniswap pools? So people selling to ETH or people selling to stablecoins from their long tail shitcoins? Like, at what stage does the price go from like markets dumping to these Uniswap pools going out of balance and the price dumping on those?
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. It's inherently something that should be answered with data, and I haven't looked into it, so I can't really answer it. But it is something that I think we could set off some time to investigate.
Yeah, I guess another way of framing that thought would be like, we see inflows into exchanges before a dump. Maybe do we also see a withdrawal of liquidity from decentralized exchanges as well? People who are savvy and who are trying to avoid getting wrecked by IL, do they pull out their liquidity before a dump? And like, how predictive is that?
Yeah, that's something that I think we should look at. Maybe I can just explain this chart too, because this might not be super intuitive.
Yeah, please.
So this shows the volume, the on-chain volume. So how much Ether basically is being moved in and out of these different exchanges. Naturally, Uniswap is the biggest one because everything that happens with Uniswap is on-chain. But if you take Binance, there's a lot of, most of actually all of the trading activity happens off-chain with Binance. So the only on-chain activity you see is when you see withdrawals and deposits. Perhaps it would have been more interesting to exclude the trading volume from Uniswap and look at only deposits and withdrawals here. And then you're kind of getting close to thinking of the stuff that you were just talking about, where you could look at if you see an increase in like withdrawals or deposits or something like that into different liquidity pools when you have a lot of turbulence in the markets.
Yeah. If anyone has any ideas in the chat, feel free to mention them. We're always looking for new ways of slicing and dicing the data and looking at it in different ways. so it provides more signal for you guys. So don't hesitate to share there or share with us on Discord or Twitter.
Maybe we could just mention one dashboard, one part of the Stablecoin Master dashboard, which might be a bit overlooked. And it's kind of a weird table, but it sometimes can surface interesting things. What this does is it just looks at stablecoin transactions between two different parties, and then it aggregates it to the quote-unquote name. So if there's a specific name which is common across many addresses, then it will aggregate up to that level. So for example, let me see if I can see something interesting here. Let's say like SCP and Elite Dex Trader. There could be many addresses that are SCP and many addresses that are Elite Dex Trader, but this is like a common transaction between these two types of labels. So it actually indicates that SCP does, this is a market maker. They trade a lot on decentralized exchanges, and naturally their counterparty very often will be an Elite Dex Trader. And so that's kind of one trend here. And then a lot of the stablecoin movements are actually just movements between different exchange wallets. So like Binance, right? They move a lot of tokens from Binance 14 to Binance 15. And they also move from Binance 14 to Binance. Alameda's FTX deposit wallet moves a lot of stablecoins into the main wallet of FTX. Makes sense. And so sometimes, and like Paxos Treasury, they're minting a lot of BUSD. It looks like almost $1 billion in the last 7 days. So you can kind of spot some cool things in this table. And it could be fun to like, not just fun, but actually quite useful to play around with this. And you spot certain things like FTX to Alameda is a very common path between wallets that have those labels. Genesis Trading's OTC desk to a high activity wallet is actually just one transaction. So that's kind of interesting. And the cool thing is that you can actually drill down on these and you can see, hey, let me look at every interaction that the SushiSwap pool has done with SCP. And so if I click here, it will take you to the wallet pair profiler. And it shows every transaction between these two addresses. So you can, again, you can like spot trends, like the tagline of Nansen is to surface the signal. That's the job of this table. It surfaces stuff that you otherwise might have missed. And then you can drill down on it and like see, hey, here's every single transaction that SCP made with this particular SushiSwap pool. And it turns out that it's, yeah, thousands of transactions.
Okay, I got a few things here.
Okay.
Number one, should SCP be smart money? Same with Genesis Trading.
So it's a good point. Genesis Trading is an OTC desk, and so I would not call it a smart money address because it's not really taking directional bets necessarily. It's just
right. It doesn't. There's no signal necessarily for traders.
Yeah. Then I would say with SCP, no doubt the people running these bots are smart as fuck, and maybe we should label them smart money addresses. They would crowd out everything though if we did so because they are so active. So I think it goes into this discussion of like, should we be including market makers at all in our smart money dashboard? But yeah, you could definitely make a good argument that they should be labeled smart money. Yeah. Okay.
Next question. Should we be including stablecoin equivalents on this, like interest-bearing stablecoins like AUSDC or AUSDT or ADAI?
Yeah, I think that's
or CPI or whatever.
Yeah, that's a fair thing to consider, especially in the transactional part. It does make it a bit harder to comprehend in some cases. But yeah, I think that's a good feature request to extend the Stablecoin Master to also include interest-bearing assets.
Okay. Third question. On that first row item with SCP and the Elite Dex Trader, which had a little smart contract emoji next to it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you mind explaining what it means when an Elite Dex Trader has a smart contract emoji next to it? Or like, why might that be a smart contract? That's the first part of the question. Second part is, you said this might include a bunch of Elite Dex Traders. Is that true, or is that just one contract? Now that we see that you can do the wallet pair profiler between.
Yeah, actually, yeah. I think the way it was originally built, this was aggregated to names across multiple addresses. But you're right. The fact that we have added a link here to a specific address indicates that now we're actually showing specific addresses. It's not an aggregation across different addresses to one name. And so that's to answer the second question. The first question, why does it have a robot here? That means, first of all, it means that it's a smart contract. Very likely, this is basically like an ARB bot or some kind of smart contract that trades on its own. Not sure it's possible for us to see.
Right. So SCP has a contract that executes the transactions for them, right? And an Elite Dex Trader is any wallet that is in the top 0.1% of volume and volume of trades on dexes and frequency of trades on dexes. And so a smart contract that is participating actively on dexes would get that label.
That's right. So the thing is, very often with these contracts, if you go to the contract tab on Etherscan, they don't have a verified contract because these guys don't want to show what they're doing, right? Like, why would they give other people the opportunity to just copy their contract? That's why it's not verified. You could actually decompile it in some cases, but you could look at who deployed this. So if we plug this into Wallet Profiler, who knows? Maybe it is actually SCP. No, so this is a deployer, and it deploys. Actually, created a lot of contracts. This related wallets box is quite useful because you can see what else it's been deploying. Oh, look at that. Called by SCP. So good chance that this is actually owned by SCP itself. So it's not necessarily trading. It's just that they're moving funds between these different wallets. That sounds pretty plausible. So good chance that we should be labeling this deployer as SCP, and pretty much everything it deploys, we should also label SCP.
So do you think, so I haven't dug into these kind of contracts before, but do you think this is basically a smart contract that is plumbed into all these different dexes? And so you would have a separate wallet, like the SCP wallet, that would call on it and send it ETH, and then it would deploy that ETH or whatever, I guess in this case, stable coins, as we're seeing here, into different ARB opportunities. And so they're just kind of like quickly blasting the USDT, USDC, DAI, whatever, into this contract. It does the ARB, then it pulls it out, because it looks like that contract doesn't actually hold any assets in it. But if you were to click on Etherscan, the drop down of tokens it's interacted with, you could probably see, and it said like 100 plus, you could probably see the different tokens that it has done ARBs with.
Yeah. So these are good hypotheses, and people can actually look into this stuff and find out those things themselves. The thing is, the smart contracts, they're actually, you have to think of the smart contracts as being applications on the blockchain. So they can be used for many different things. In fact, they could be used as routers, so that you could implement some code that says, like, every time I send this token to this smart contract, then send that to this deposit address, because I want all my like Matic tokens to go to this Binance deposit, but I want all the Bancor tokens to go to this Huobi wallet. So you can like implement stuff like that, so you can abstract away the routing, right? And you just send tokens to like your own smart contract, and the smart contract takes care of it. So there's like lots of different building blocks that you can create as a market maker or as any market participants using smart contracts. I can't answer like on the fly what this particular one does, but it actually makes DEX trades. So you can see here that it does basically a swap here on Bancor, for example.
Cool. Well, this was actually a pretty interesting deep dive. I don't think we've dug into this part of the dashboards yet. I feel like
there's so many rabbit holes to go down, right? I think I wanted to highlight this because I think there's a lot of cool stuff you can dig into in this section, and I don't think people are aware of it because it's kind of hidden, right? You go to Stablecoin Master, notable wallets at the very bottom. It has these, these aggregations on basically addresses that are transacting stablecoins with each other. And now with this very convenient drill down on the wallet pair profiler, you can actually understand the interactions a bit better.
Awesome. One final thing that we got a request in the chat, and then we can start wrapping things up, is a quick dive into the Lido dashboard. And in the Lido in the chat, we have a gentleman asking, wondering if we could take a look at Lido, trying to interpret what ParaFi is doing and whether they're buying or just moving stuff around.
Ken, this is the Lido dashboard in question, I presume. Or are we looking at token god mode for LDO? Which one does the user want to see?
Mr. Woods, if you are still in the chat, feel free to let us know if you're looking for this Lido dashboard or
you could look at the Lido governance token. You could also look at the staked ETH token. But this, maybe I can explain this dashboard. So this shows how much Ether has been deposited into the Ethereum 2 deposit contract through Lido. So 460,000 Ether, 4,330 something unique addresses have been depositing. And then you can see the price of STETH against Ether. And it should be pegged at 1. And so it's been like hugging the peg pretty well. There was a period here where the liquidity was quite low and it actually dropped a bit, but it's been holding up really well for a while now. Most of the liquidity is on Curve, which you can see in this chart. I think this BlockFi is someone who maybe sent like staked Ether to the wrong place, or maybe it's some insiders at BlockFi, because as far as I know, BlockFi doesn't support staked ETH. But yeah, anyone can send tokens to an exchange. It will label it as like it's sitting in the exchange's wallets, because it is, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily listed there. You see like the top staked ETH balances, and Curve is the big one. It's basically like 75%-ish of all the staked Ether is sitting in Curve. You see who deposited the most Ether into Lido. And so 3 Arrows Capital holds the record of 50,000 Ether in one transaction, which they did 18 days ago.
So 18 days ago, do you think there's any sort of like ARB there? Like where if you put in ETH when the peg is off, you get like whatever 4%. And so they could quickly scoop a bunch of ETH on an exchange, slap it into Lido, and then walk away with like 4%.
So these staking transactions are specifically one-to-one swaps of your Ether, and you get this exact same amount of staked Ether out again. In fact, if we click through on this transaction, you will see here that basically 50,000 Ether, and then practically speaking, 50,000 staked Ether came out. So there's no ARB there, but there is. You could imagine the staked Ether price on Curve, for example, or any of the other dexes would slip below 1, and then you could buy it there instead. But you wouldn't see a staking transaction in that case, then it would just be a normal trade. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Also, Mr. Woods in the chat has clarified he's looking for the LDO token god mode.
Got it. So let's look at that. First of all, this looks pretty funny, but I think to clarify why we see this, Bitfinex participated in the relatively recent treasury diversification round, aka token sale round, and probably we should keep those funds separate, but it's been attributed to Bitfinex because basically they use a Bitfinex wallet to make the investment, and that's why they have LDO tokens. But let's look at notable wallets, which is probably where.
Also, just in the interest of disclosure, Alex is a participant in what aspect of Lido?
So I'm a DAO member.
DAO member, okay. Just this is purely exploratory. We're not endorsing Lido here.
Yeah. Also, generally, like in these office hours, we do hold tokens that we look at. Like it's kind of hard to get around. I've tried to disclose my old holdings in Lido simply by using Nansen, because here I am. Look at that. That's my name. I'm in the table. And so I couldn't think of any better way to disclose this than using our own platform. So I'm here. There's no secret. And so the question was, what is ParaFi doing? I've not actually looked at this. But yeah, there are some large transactions here. ParaFi is sending LDO tokens to a token millionaire address. Who knows?
I think probably a good way of looking at this would be looking at wallet profiler for token and seeing what what transactions they've done with LDO. Yep. Because it looks like possibly they've accumulated on SushiSwap, 1inch, so on and so forth, and then sent a big chunk of that to another wallet. If I'm interpreting that correctly.
Yeah. We could also look at Pair Profiler to look at did they do any more transactions with this specific address? So I'm going to spin that up. And let's see, maybe a way to look at this could be, actually, yeah, it doesn't show up there because of that difference. So yeah, if I just click the address here, I guess that was what you were trying to say, you can see everything they did with the LDO token. Let's see. May 19th. That's yeah. So okay, few different ways to use this table. These are the largest token transactions, 47 transactions. You can sort this by time if you just want to see the recent moves. And so this transaction here was made 20 hours ago, so it's quite fresh. And they were sending to Token Millionaire. There's also these, yeah, let's see if these are actual swaps. Yeah, it looks like they were buying it. Buying Lido, it appears. Executed swap. Yeah, it looks like they have been buying Lido and then sending it to this Token Millionaire, this mysterious Token Millionaire contract. We can also click through on that Token Millionaire contract, but wanted to see this relationship between the Token Millionaire. It's actually a lot of transactions between these two. So this goes all the way back to almost a year ago. Not just, it's like Ether, Wi-Fi, USDC, LDO. Seems pretty likely that these two are related somehow. And so this should very likely just be tagged as ParaFi as well. So this is actually, yeah, I mean, reading this, I would have to look into it a bit more, but the 8020 here is probably just another ParaFi wallet that we hadn't labeled, and we should probably label it as ParaFi once we have reviewed the evidence a bit more.
And so what's, just going back to the original question, which is, what is ParaFi? What does it look like ParaFi is doing here with Lido? My interpretation is it looks like they've been accumulating and squirreling it away in an unlabeled wallet.
Correct. That's how I'm reading it.
Subject to the viewer's interpretation.
And so if you go back here to the balance changes, you sort by top accumulators. This is their address, assuming that hypothesis is correct. And so I think
were they in the round?
Not sure actually. Lido Finance, but hopefully this. Yeah. Well, let me see. Lido Finance, ParaFi, new funding. Okay, so they were in a former round, but I wanted to find the latest one. There should be actually Lido Finance Treasury diversification. There we go. Part 2, I think, is where you have the other ones. ParaFi, no ParaFi in that round. So, but they
were in the first round, right?
They were in the first round.
So that's pretty interesting because all of the tokens were locked up for a certain period of time, right? Like 1, 2, 3 years or something.
2 years. I don't know. I can't comment on all the other ones. I just know the DAO members had 2 years with 1 year vesting. Sorry, 2 years vesting with 1 year cliff.
So my interpretation on this, and again, purely speculation, is they were in the first round, so they had a big chunk of kind of illiquid or locked, I should say, Lido, and they've just been accumulating a more liquid position to either re-up or maybe trade around.
Yeah, about 1 million sitting there. Should be this one. They started receiving 21 days ago. Sorry, top deposit. You can also look at top depositors here. Yeah, this is a pretty cool one. It's a cool case. Nicely spotted, whoever brought it up. I don't have the chat in front of me. Or I actually do here. James Woods, nice.
Cool. Well, before we keep digging into this and make some enemies, maybe we should wrap things up here. Anything to add before we close out, Alex?
I think we had a good session now. A lot of interesting cases to look at. Pretty good use cases of Nansen all around. Bit lucky with the Sunder Finance one, but yeah, hopefully this was useful to everyone watching this.
Cool. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Now we get to spend the next couple minutes watching Alex figure out how to turn off this stream on YouTube.
I think I know how to do it, actually.
Oh yeah, you just smash end broadcast.
Smash that end stream button. Yeah.
On that note, then let's smash it. Catch you guys all on a future stream.
Thanks for watching Nansen Office Hours. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.